to be kind of informal. I'd hate to sit up here and go through all of this information in a span of 15 minutes. I'm not sure how much you guys will get out of it. I will try to hit on the main points and things that are hit close to home for me, as my mom is right now taking care of my grandmom, who is in the process of trying to get a diagnosis related to cognitive decline, dementia. She's been dealing with some things for a while, and my mom's been trying to cope with those things. And so some of these tips and tricks here I've passed along to her to try to help her throughout her day, take care of my grandmom, whether that be ADLs, activities of daily living, feeding, dealing with behavioral problems. She often goes back and forth, although you're not supposed to do that, as I'll show you. There's agitation, obviously, you're dealing with, and just sometimes just a different person. It seems like a different person than you're used to being with and loving. A little bit about me. I'm Anthony Ruggieri, an occupational therapist, and I'm director of senior living for Fox Rehabilitation. I've been working for Fox for 9 years in a variety of different roles, from the clinical side to the business development side to the partnership side. And I've seen this program kind of evolve over the years. Like I mentioned earlier, it started kind of in the home as a resource for caregivers, but we saw that it would be a great thing to also implement in senior living, because they're not only the senior living staff, those caregivers, but also family members still want to know and want to be involved. And this is a way that we can help them stay involved, understand the stages, communication strategies, which we'll get into, and just interact more comfortably and really have an understanding.
Yeah, and you know what, I think that this is a very important topic. I'm Jason Kahn, the Director of Communications for Chelsea Senior Living. If you haven't had a chance to read our bios during the registration form, go back, take a look. You can read all of that. We Anthony and I were talking, and although this month isn't Dementia Awareness Month, it's not like necessarily special to memory issues or memory care in any sort of way, but it's always, we feel like this is always an important topic to talk about. Anthony and I were talking about earlier, some of the current events that are going on. I know that there are a lot of clinical trials as it relates to slowing the progression of Alzheimer's. Some celebrities in the news, such as Bruce Willis and his dementia diagnosis. And I think that kind of brought things to the forefront and really the top of mind. It's always, memory issues are always top of mind for us here at Chelsea. And we have a lot of great specialists who are really strong at what they do, and different methodologies, whether it's music therapy or pet therapy, and a lot of that recognition and helping with those memory issues. And, today, Anthony, I know that he's going to be discussing, and this is mostly Anthony's ballpark here, so I'm going to pass it along to him in a minute. But Anthony's going to be discussing the strategies. I saw a question here in the chat box from one of our guests today, who has their mom new in the memory care unit. And, we'll try to answer that question, Carrie, in just a little bit, of how to respond to her mom when she says things that she's not quite sure about. So we'll dive into that. Anthony has a few things.
I can answer that right off the bat, just to take care of the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that, it's going to be prevalent throughout the dementia playbook that we utilize. And I think we should be able to get you a digital copy of the full playbook, just so you can have it as a resource. Really, when somebody, with dementia says something that's not quite correct, which happens often, really the best technique is to be in their reality. Don't try to dismiss or kind of change topic to maybe a more correct narrative. I would strongly suggest that you stay within the reality. If they go in and out of that mindset, especially when they're in that frame of mind, try to adhere to what their belief is and what their reality is. That's what everyone's going to tell you. That's what the resources are going to tell you. Tip of snow. Try your best. I know some of the things that might be said don't exactly jive with our reality, but it's easier said than done. I totally understand, but try to have an understanding and compassion about where they're at mentally, and we'll get more into that. But it was a good question. Hope that kind of answered it. Like I said, we'll be able to get you a copy of this playbook so that you can have it as a resource. And in terms of training, we also train the staff at Chelsea. We have in services on a quarterly basis, so we go over dementia and then other topics like Parkinson's and some other frequently seen diagnoses.
Yeah, Carrie just asked in the chat box here, Anthony, just a moment ago, what if, her mom is accusing people of stealing things, that sort of thing? What would you suggest there?
Yeah, that's tough because you don't want to, get anyone in trouble. And I would say if you're just talking to her, just try to understand, try to be present. And if she's saying someone's stealing things, say, "Oh, okay, that's awful. I can't believe that's actually happening." Try to go with what she's saying, and then maybe on the side, obviously, if she's accusing someone, talk to that person, and try to clear it up with them and just make sure that there's no miscommunication. But it's still kind of go along with what she's saying, and just let the folks know around her, caregivers and the staff at the community, kind of what's going on, and just keep them up to date. Funny you say that because my grandfather did that exact thing. He was staying in an assisted living with a skilled nursing attached to it. He didn't have dementia, but he did accuse some of the staff, and I think he didn't have dementia, but he definitely had some cognitive decline that we had to deal with, and would get agitated from time to time, even more than when he was a young man. He was still a stubborn Italian, but
Always a tough
yeah,
thing to stay with that narrative, though, right?
it
So
is, it is.
it very much is. But I'll let you kind of take it away from here and
Yeah,
take us along, the different strategies and the approaches that we can dive into right now for not just people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, but also people experiencing some memory issues.
yeah. I knew we wouldn't get too far, but the tools. So just a brief overview here. The playbook includes tools, caregivers, care strategies, and you can see communication, bathing, dressing and grooming, toileting, feeding, even managing the holidays and get-togethers. Also goes into behavioral type things: aggression, agitation, anxiety and fear, arguing, hallucinating, um, paranoid delusions. You were just alluding to there. So it covers a number of different things, but we'll just kind of start from the beginning, give a brief overview of it, and then you guys can have the resource after this. So dementia is a set of symptoms. It reflects a gradual decline in cognitive ability, memory, behavior. It's caused by a gradual loss in the working brain cells. Alzheimer's is just one of the forms. It's probably the most popular form that you hear about most frequently, but there are 50 others, including Lewy body, vascular, Parkinson's disease, dementia, and frontotemporal. So the stages of dementia, we have early stage, middle stage, and late stage. Early stage is kind of where my grandmom is now. Short-term memory stage changes, diminished ability to concentrate, and confusion, orientation, time and place. I went over there, a few weeks ago to take care of her when my parents were away, and I woke her up at 5:30 at night, and she had no idea what time it was, where she was. I had to keep reminding her of the time. Just again, repetition. You'll get that in early to middle stage. And then withdrawal, that's another big one that my grandmom has had. And luckily recently, because I have a 2-year-old daughter, in the last year and a half or so, we've been taking her over my mom's throughout the week. That's the only time, the only motivation that she has to get up, get ready. She'll get changed. She'll brush her hair. She'll brush her teeth, like things that she will never, ever do in any other circumstance, really, since my grandfather had passed away. She didn't have much meaning. But when I go over there, I bring my daughter over, she gets ready, she gets up, she gets moving, and it's nice to see. So you have to find some sort of meeting to kind of motivate when the withdrawal from social and work engagements begin to take fold. She still has difficulty going anywhere and things like that. But she will get at least herself ready and changed, and not give my mom as hard of a time doing all those things if she knows Lila, my daughter's, going to be dropped off. Then you get to the middle stage, which is inability to kind of follow, find this dysphagia, trying to difficulty finding words, especially nouns, repetition, like I just mentioned, the invention of new words, or reverting to a native language. And you can see the list here. I'm not going to go through all of them. But then, you have that middle stage. And then finally, late stage is where it gets very serious, where you have loss of the ability to talk and express themselves, experience the world through the five senses, require hand over hand assistance for feeding and grooming. So it's like mod to max assist. And they're just very dependent. So that's where, I mean, when, your mom is now at Chelsea in the memory care unit, it's needed, right? They need to be cared for. My mom can only do so much. She's going to need additional help. And so she's been trying to find good caregivers to come in from the outside, but that's really tough to find. And I know, because she's been trying to find a good caregiver out in the home, a reliable caregiver, for about 3 years now. And she still hasn't found somebody that's consistently there, unless she's willing to, pay an astronomical amount to have them there almost full time. It's so hard to find somebody outside to support. And so that's why it's great what Chelsea and other assisted livings do with trying to do everything they can to take care of your loved one in a safe. That's probably the most important thing, a safe environment.
Yeah, and especially I think one of the differences, when you have in-home care versus what we have here at Chelsea, you have the socialization, which is really, really beneficial for memory care residents. It's part of their recognition, keeping those past memories fresh. We have music therapy and pet therapy, and we really try to elevate the senses in so many different ways. And really, you lack that when you have that in-home care. So those are the things that we do here on a regular basis at Chelsea. And I just want to kind of express and emphasize what Anthony was saying there.
Yeah, and from a therapy standpoint, what we try to do at the Chelsea communities is really be proactive, even though cognitively they're not, where they used to be. Muscle memory is still intact. Repetitive task training is still effective. That muscle memory is important. So repetitive task training, whether that's getting in and out of the bathtub, or transfers, or ambulation, like, that stuff does help, and it helps to hopefully decrease the risk or eliminate falls and hospitalizations and skilled nursing facility visits, which is probably the number one thing. We just want to avoid that at all costs. So we are a very proactive practice. A little bit about Fox, just real quick. We do physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy in the home and in senior living. We've been doing it. Actually, this is our 25th anniversary. All we've done the entire 25 years is concentrate on the geriatric population. So our clinicians are very, very well trained. We only hire clinicians that have a passion for geriatrics, and a lot of our leadership. It's been a little while since I've practiced, but a lot of our leadership were clinicians, and they are the ones that are passing on that knowledge and training and teaching our clinicians. So they're very well educated when it comes to comorbidities of the geriatric population. All right. Memory loss and confusion. The stages are pretty similar. You can imagine it's just going to go it's a progression from a little bit of memory loss, some signs and symptoms, all the way to not being able to communicate at all, and understand and follow a conversation. Some strategies. I mean, I think the most important thing, it says, one of the things over here is show photos and other reminders. Use old photographs to help them remind them of important relationships. This one here, try to talk about anything relevant to the time, the particular time and place. It says live in their own reality. So Carrie, back to your question, travel with them to the time they are in. If they start talking about, a different time and place, often they will be able to function quite well in that time and place if you can kind of grasp it and relate things to that. And I'll tell a quick story. I know we got 10 minutes here, but I think it's important as just an example. There was another senior living that I was working with down in South Jersey when I was an account manager, and I would run a monthly men's club because it was kind of difficult for them to get men to participate in anything at the assisted living, so they were just asking for some kind of help. So we would conversate about their history in the wars, their work history. We'd play some games. One time we were playing checkers, and there were a couple gentlemen there. Jason, you probably heard this story. One guy was playing the game about halfway through. The other guy was kind of just sitting over to the side, did have dementia. I think he was from the memory care unit, or either transferring from AL memory care. It was definitely like middle stage, at least at that point. So he wasn't doing much at all. He was just kind of sitting there. And then all of a sudden, halfway through the game, he reaches over and he grabs one of my his checker players, and he hops two of my guys. So he double jumped me. I'm like, wow, that came out of nowhere. I just thought it was like kind of a fluke, and we continued to play, and he continued to participate, and he actually ended up beating me. And I was just playing checkers, and he beat me. So I was like, wow, this is so weird. So I went to the executive director, and I was like, this gentleman was not participating at all, and then all of a sudden he just started doing it, and he was very good at checkers. So she did a little bit of background research, and it turned out that this guy was a professional checkers player in the 1950s. And I still get chills telling the story, and I've told it a million times. It's just because you find that one thing that brings them back to a time and place, sparks their interest, gets them engaged. It's one of the things that we try to do, is try to get them as engaged as possible. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be it could be anything as long as they're engaged doing something. This particular instance was just, it was wild. But I tell that story because it doesn't have to be checkers. It could be anything. Just think about what your loved one once was passionate about, maybe playing the piano, music, things like that, and try to implement that into their daily routine.
Right. Yeah.
Compensatory strategies for memory. I'll just read down the list here because these are kind of important. Repetition with daily routine tasks. So that might be have a set schedule, and that routine just repeats itself every day. Do the same thing every day. We talked about repetitive task training for the physical, but you can also repetitive task train for other things, other ADLs throughout the day. Pay close attention. I think really what that means is just listen, try to understand as much as you can. And a big thing that people don't realize is it takes about 90 seconds for somebody with dementia to process and respond. So if you ask them a simple question, you might need to sit there, and it's hard to do, especially for me. But a minute and a half, you might have to sit there and wait for them to process that question and give you an answer, a logical answer. So I know when you sit and wait for 90 seconds, it's going to feel like an eternity, but studies have shown that that's about the processing time. So just a little tidbit there. If you are having difficulty communicating. All right. Visualize, create a mental image. I'm just looking for something here. Chunk the information into smaller pieces. So that's kind of what I just said. Like it can be just a smaller question, a less complicated question, and then wait for them to respond. All right. Let's get through this. We only got a couple minutes, and then I do want to have like 3 or so minutes for any other additional questions we have. So this will be part of the playbook. I'm not going to go through it, but we actually have a sample of how how a typical day might be structured. It's from early morning all the way to bedtime, and it's similar. It's similar to having a child. Jason and I know now. You have to have things to fill the day that are going to engage them, or else they'll revert back to maybe behavioral issues or not doing anything and just kind of laying around watching TV. So you have to be creative and come up with activities that are going to keep their interest throughout the day. I mean, at Chelsea, I know the caregivers are trained to be able to do that. So it's nice having but if you are at home still with your loved one trying to take care of them, try to create like a routine schedule and then also an activity schedule similar to what you would do for a child. Um, so this is a sample one, and we'll send you this. Jason, you have all the emails, right? Just make sure.
That's right. Yep. I just sent in the
Cool.
chat that we will be sending an overview of the presentation to
Great.
all the people who registered. So
Awesome.
you will just look out for that after we close today.
And then this, I think, is important to include. You think a lot of your loved one, and you're so your selflessness and ability to care for them is you know it takes patience. It takes just perseverance to get through some of the difficult times. You have to think about yourself as well. So not only do we have information in the Restoring Life playbook about what you can do for your loved one to help communicate and behave, manage behaviors, but we also have stuff that you can do for yourself, including if you need support groups and things like that. So just take a step back every once in a while, and I have to tell my mom this all the time. Just take a step back, try to take a breath, think about the situation, and once in a while get away. That's why I was over my parents' house a couple weeks ago to take care of my grandma, because I just told my mom, like, it's okay, like, take a night, try to hopefully you have support that can help and cover and take care of your loved one while you do that, but just remember to take care of yourself. And I love this quote. We could even end on this, but they may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So again, you know, be compassionate, because they will remember, how you made them feel during that interaction. If you upset them, the emotion is very strongly tied to the person that's interacting. So just keep that in mind. I know we only have a few more minutes here, so I'm not going to get into this one either, but communication strategies goes over verbal communication, nonverbal, and then avoid the following reactions, which is correcting their orientation, place, and time, criticizing, talking down to the person, reasoning, which seems reasonable, but it could have a negative impact if you try to reason with somebody. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you try to live in their reality, not try to reason based on your reality. And then, types of cues, strategies to maximize the queuing, the effectiveness of queuing. And then just a summary here, relationship, communication, motor learning, environment. This is a slide that we use to teach to kind of summarize and teach our clinicians. So this is something that they get during their orientation. So establish personal connection. For communication, you use intentional verbal and nonverbal skills. For motor learning, you understand and exploit the strengths. And then environment, create a safe, comfortable space. And there's some details there that you can read through. But this is definitely something that we educate our clinicians on. Like I said, we're geriatric practice. And so a lot of our orientation and training is based on dementia. And it's 6:29. Didn't leave much time. But
Yeah,
I
you know
hope
what?
some of that was helpful.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so let's open it up to a Q&A. You know what? I hope that the video conference platform Teams allows us to go a little bit over, but it gave me a countdown a few minutes ago when we hit the 5 minutes and less mark.
It
So
should it should be fine.
It
We
should
have
be
teams.
okay. But if there are
Yeah.
any questions that Anthony didn't mention on this webinar, please feel free to use the chat box that you see here in the window. It should be in your browser window. And feel free to fire away. I know Carrie had some questions. Hopefully, Anthony was able to answer most of them during the webinar. Good question in the beginning, by the way.
Yeah. And
Anyone else?
a lot of this stuff is feel while you guys are typing your questions, if you do have any. A lot of this stuff is feel. There's not an exact science to it. There's only people with experience that are kind of, kind of talking about their experience and developing education based around that, like Teepa Snow or some others that are popular out there. So not every one person, not every person is the same. Obviously, every experience is going to be a little bit different, and you're going to have to shape. This is just a guide, and then you have to kind of shape what you do based around the individual.
Yeah, I mean, this is we talked about this. We could talk about this topic for hours and hours.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we're trying to be mindful of we're trying to be mindful of everybody's time. I say unfortunately, what I mean is fortunately, we're trying to be mindful of everybody's time because, this, while you may still have some questions, you may have a loved one at one of our Chelsea communities. Of course, you can always ask something to me, to Anthony. I provided our email addresses at any given time, or even the coordinator, the specialist at your current community.
and I just
And
threw my
yes,
cell phone in there. Yeah,
yeah, thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it. Mark, yes, we will have a link to the recording of this webinar in a follow-up email.
correct, Carrie. Yep, that's exactly it.
So, yep,
So just
if people aren't looking in the chat box right now, Carrie just asked another question. She's still saying that she wants to leave. She's talking about her mom, and she's missing the other floor. I should just say yes, I totally get that, but don't keep saying that she does not need to stay.
yeah. So again, that's perfect. I mean, you should just say, yes, I understand. I totally understand where you're coming from, and just be on her level. And I'm not sure. Again, every case is different, but if she goes in and out of these thoughts, just go with it. When she's in this kind of in this place in her mind, roll with the punches, and then continue on, and then maybe let somebody at the Chelsea staff know, just to let them know, so that they can record it, and nobody's caught off guard.
Good question. Anyone else? We'll stay for another few minutes here. If you have any other questions that can be answered, we'd be happy
Yeah.
to stay on. If not, again, obviously, if you have any private or personal questions, you have our email addresses. Feel free to send them along, or feel free to definitely lean on the specialists in your community. We have a great team. Feel free to ask them as well. They're very knowledgeable, and they can definitely help answer those questions that you may have.
Yeah.
But again,
If
Anthony, he just provided his personal cell phone number, so take advantage of
Yeah.
that.
That's my personal number.
So
Yes, call me.
give
Call
him a
me if
call.
you. Yeah, no, really, call me. I will point you in the right direction if you need support. If you have questions, if you want to talk more in depth about the playbook, I think we're going to send out this PowerPoint with all the information that I kind of glanced over, so that you can read in more detail, and then we're going to send a preview of the entire playbook. If you would like the full version, just email myself or Jason, or give me a call and I can make it happen. Just let me know. We have, as far as our house call model goes, we have, like I said, PT, OT, speech. We can get to every area in New Jersey. So I don't know where all of you are from or live, but if you're still in your home and you need, and maybe have an early state, not quite ready to move into assisted living or memory care, we can come out to you. But if you have a loved one in one of the Chelseas, we can also work with you in their communities as well.
And Mark, you just brought up a great point, right? I did mention it earlier, but for people who join late, if you're unfamiliar with how to use the chat window here, there may be some people who are unfamiliar with this platform. there is a chat icon. It should be in your, either if you're using a browser or if you're using the application, there should be a chat icon. It's next to an icon called People. May look a little bit different with the computer you're using. It looks like a little bubble, like a little chat text box. And if you click on that, it should open the chat box for you. And this will allow you to type a message directly into the chat and interact with us if you do have a question.
If not, just text me. My cell phone,
That's
I
right.
do check text, so you can text me as well if you don't want to ask it in front of the group. We're accessible, so
That's absolutely right. Yeah, I know that there are definitely some personal questions, and that's totally fine.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? It looks like the Q&A session is done from what I can see, but we will be sending that link out. Just to reiterate, we will be sending a link to this webinar. It has been recorded. So as soon as we wrap up here, we'll send it out to you. We'll also include an overview of the playbook from Fox Rehab about everything that Anthony discussed today, just so that you guys have that in front of you. You can review it. And then you may have some other questions after taking a look at that and possibly replaying this webinar. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. I appreciate everybody for joining. Anthony, thank you so much for all that you do and your team, all that you guys do over there at Fox Rehab. It is it goes probably, I guess thanked sometimes,
Yeah.
but you guys deserve a lot of praise, and appreciate all that you guys do. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for
Yeah.
co-hosting with me today, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. And the partnership is strong. We've worked with Chelsea for years and years now. We have a nice understanding and back and forth of the programming offered, and they are very accepting. I mean, we can have all the programming in the world, but if there's no buy-in from the partner in implementing the strategies and listening to our clinicians and taking those in services and applying them, it's going to be all for naught. And luckily, Chelsea is one of those partners that we cherish because they do listen and they do implement, and they are all about therapy engagement and increasing the function of their residents.
All right, everybody.
Thanks.
Appreciate you guys joining. Have a great night, and look forward to seeing some of your questions. You got our emails, so you'll be hearing from us soon. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Take care.